All right, so moving on to the final segment, I'll be sharing my thoughts on the NBA playoffs, and I'll be sharing my NBA playoff predictions for the first round of the NBA playoffs. So the time has come. This is where it all comes down to who's going to be the best team in the NBA. I love this tournament. It's the truth. I would like to call this tournament the truth because you find out who's the best of the best in a 7 game series throughout. The play-in tournament's over. This is straight down to business in the playoffs. So let's start off with the Western Conference. We'll be seeing the first seeded Denver Nuggets. In my prediction, I have them playing against the 8th seeded Minnesota Timberwolves. I have the Denver Nuggets winning the series in 6. It's going to be a really interesting matchup to see Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert if he comes back. Rudy Gobert matchup against Jokic. This is going to be a good defensive matchup with sending both of those big men in different times in the game, do different defensive assignments to see Karl Anthony Towns get a taste of Jokic defensively and Rudy Gobert get a taste of Jokic defensively. So I do believe that the Denver Nuggets are coming to the playoffs a little flat. A lot of people have been disrespecting Jokic, saying the MVP goes to Joel Embiid. That's great if it does go to Joel Embiid because it's the playoffs and Jokic is looking to win his first NBA championship this year. And he's heard all the buzz, all the talk of analysts saying that the Denver Nuggets are in danger of going home in the first round. They are not. Again, they are my pick to make it to the NBA Finals. Let's pump the brakes here. They're going to make it out of the first round. They're playing a Minnesota Timberwolves team that is failing to get along. The chemistry is breaking down, and I do believe that Jokic is going to put together some magic, and the depth of the Denver Nuggets is going to be too much for the Timberwolves to handle. Being on the road and having in the Denver Nuggets having home court advantage will help them get to the second round of the playoffs. So, in the next matchup, this is going to be one hell of a matchup. We're going to see the second seed Memphis Grizzlies take on, in my prediction, the 7th seeded Los Angeles Lakers. With that being said, I think this will be the best competitive series in the West in the first round, and I have the Lakers winning this series in Game 7. The Lakers are the hottest team right now in the Western Conference. Like I just said in the last segment, they're 16-7 ever since after the NBA All-Star break. They're the hottest team in the Western Conference. They're heading into the playoffs with a healthy LeBron James and a healthy Anthony Davis. That is dangerous to have those two together because we already saw in the past that they won an NBA championship together when the two were healthy and playing at a cohesive, being cohesive together on the court and playing at an all-time high level. I think that's what we're gonna get in the playoffs with LeBron James and Anthony Davis play together. So this is gonna be a great matchup. I just think this is a Grizzlies matchup nightmare for them. This is the team they did not want to see in the first round of the playoffs, playing the Los Angeles Lakers. And they're going to have to play two guys that know what it's like to win a championship in the first round. They'll have a hard time guarding. The Grizzlies will have a hard time stopping Anthony Davis, who's been playing like an absolute monster as of late, because they don't have Steven Adams, who is ruled out due to injury for the entire playoffs. So that's going to be a hard assignment. Then you have the players of D'Angelo Russell, Jared Vanderbilt, Hachimura, Austin Reeves. This Lakers team is deep, and they proved that their depth is going to be very important in their playoff run. I like their chances, and I think the Grizzlies are on upset alert. The Lakers get it done in Game 7. And let's move on here. We have the 3rd-seeded Sacramento Kings taking on the 6th-seeded Golden State Warriors. This is going to be another interesting matchup. Get your popcorn ready. I have the Warriors winning this in Game 6. I believe the Sacramento Kings are on upset alert. Despite the Warriors being 11-30 team on the road this NBA season, I bashed them on the playoffs. I had a lot of doubts about them. However, this is the best scenario for them to get their confidence back on the road because they're playing a Sacramento Kings team. When you do the math on it, from the Bay Area to Sacramento, still in the state of California, the radius is only 87 to 90 miles away from the Bay Area to Sacramento. So is it really a home? Is it really a road series? I should say that's gonna not be in the favor of the Golden State Warriors because the Kings have home court advantage. 87 to 90 mile radius, you're gonna have Golden State Warriors fans come from the Bay to help the Warriors in any way possible, to help them make sure they knock off this young Sacramento Kings team in the first round. So that is one of the reasons why I have them knocking them off. Andrew Wiggins is back. He has not played in the game since he's returned from his own problems, and I think the world should respect his own problems that he's going through in his own respective life. We can criticize him for the sports world, but let the man breathe. He's a human like anybody else. Whatever he's going through, I wish him nothing but the best. But Andrew Wiggins is back, and he's gonna have to. And if he's in basketball shape, it's bad news for everybody in the Western Conference, because we saw how vital of a piece that Andrew Wiggins was last year in the playoffs, especially in the Western Conference in last year against the Mavericks. He helped them out a lot. Then in the NBA Finals as well, the defensive play that he had against Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown definitely will not go unnoticed ever when you talk about the Warriors dynasty winning their fourth ring. Andrew Wiggins is one of the reasons why he helped them win that championship last year. And if he's back in basketball shape, it's bad news for everybody in the West. So the core of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green all know what it's like to compete in the playoffs. And against a young, inexperienced Sacramento Kings team, this was a bad draw for them. I like the Warriors winning this series and advancing on to the second round of the playoffs. With the and then in the West, we'll be seeing the fourth seeded Phoenix Suns take on the fifth seeded Los Angeles Clippers. I have the Suns winning this in Game 6, but let's pump the brakes here on the Phoenix Suns. Yes, I'm hearing all the talk, all the buzz that the Suns are automatically the favorites in the West. They have automatically punched their ticket to get to the Western Conference Finals and get to the NBA Finals. Let's pump the brakes here. Chris Paul is older. This is an older Chris Paul now. And we cannot forget about the collapse that this Phoenix Suns team had in the playoffs last year against the Dallas Mavericks. This was a team that should have cruised to the Western Conference Finals last year. And they got derailed by the Mavericks in a huge playoff collapse. And three back-to-back games that sent them home last year. And can the bench produce with KD and if KD and Devin Booker have bad games? Can DeAndre Ayton step up to the plate and bail them out in games that they're going to need to win if those two are on a cold streak? And the Suns' depth and their bench, since trading for Kevin Durant, they gave up a lot of pieces to get KD. I still have a lot of question marks about this bench. Is it going to be enough when the starters are out, like KD, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton? When those guys have to take those guys can't play a whole 48 minutes of basketball. They're going to have to take a break. Can the bench step up when they can, when it matters most? We're going to see in the playoffs. But I do believe that the Suns have enough pieces. Oh, and I will say, before I get to that part, you can say that the Suns are undefeated ever since Kevin Durant's been in the lineup. They're 8-0, 9-0, one of the two. But if you look at that stretch, the only team that they played that is worth talking about, and that's a decent team during that stretch, is the Dallas Mavericks. You can say, oh, they beat the Denver Nuggets last week. Well, if you watch the game, they did not. The Denver Nuggets sat out every player that was in their starting lineup, and they barely beat the Denver Nuggets bench in that game last Thursday night. So when you look at the resume, the only team that they beat that's decent since Kevin Durant's been in the lineup and being undefeated, where's the Dallas Mavericks? So that's why I'm saying just pump the brakes on the Suns. Don't go crazy and say they're automatically in the finals, because there's so many teams that could give them a run for their money in the West right now. With that being said, the Suns in 6, I do believe they have enough pieces to beat the Los Angeles Clippers in the first round. I think it's going to be a competitive series, though. I won't be surprised if the Clippers give the Suns a run for their money. Another reason why the Suns are going to pull this out in 6, Paul George has still not been medically cleared to come back to basketball. He's out due to injury. We will see if Paul George comes back very soon. If Paul George doesn't come back after the first 2 games, the Suns might gentlemen sweep the Clippers. But Suns are going to advance. Let's move on to the East. And then you have the first seeded Milwaukee Bucks taking on the 8th seeded Atlanta Hawks. I like the Bucks in this matchup. I do believe that they're going to gentlemen sweep the Atlanta Hawks. Again, the Hawks are my prediction to play them in the first round. But I do believe they'll gentlemen sweep the Atlanta Hawks in this series, with the Hawks winning one game at home. I do believe they can steal one in Atlanta, but after that, the Milwaukee Bucks are just going to crush them this series. The Bucks are just an overall better team, top to bottom. And I think focused Giannis is something that you do not, as a player, and you do not want to run into in the first round. Bad draw for the Hawks. Unfortunately, have to go into the play-in gauntlet, but the Bucks are going to win this series. Second round, I have the second-seeded Boston Celtics taking on the seventh-seeded Miami Heat. That's my prediction. The Heat playing against the Celtics in the first round, and a rematch from the Eastern Conference Finals last year. With that being said, I have to be honest about my Miami Heat. This is not a good year. This is not a year that we're going to shock a lot of people. With that being said, the Celtics are going to win the series in Game 6. It's hard to bet against Jimmy Playoff Butler. Like I said in the last segment, he's one of the best players in the NBA. He can compete with anybody on a nightly basis in the playoffs. He's just that special. But it's going to take a lot for this Miami Heat roster to compete with the Boston Celtics that's been firing on all cylinders this season. And I do believe that the Celtics are the better team. When you look at the matchups, they've upgraded. The Miami Heat have not really upgraded much since they met last year in the playoffs. I have the Celtics winning this in Game 6. Then you have the third-seeded Philadelphia 76ers taking on the sixth-seeded Brooklyn Nets. I have the Philadelphia 76ers winning this series in Game 5. I have them, gentlemen, sweeping them. I will say this. On paper, this should be a cakewalk for the Philadelphia 76ers to get past this young, inexperienced Brooklyn Nets team. This is a team that was really put together after the NBA All-Star break. They've been winning games that did enough to get into the playoffs, but they haven't really gelled much enough for me to be convinced that they can knock off a Philadelphia 76ers team in the first round. Joel Embiid is playing at an elite level. This is the best that I've seen Joel Embiid and his NBA career thus far. However, the pieces around the 76ers moving forward, I have a lot of question marks with James Harden, Doc Rivers, Tobias Harris. How will these pieces play out, helping Joel Embiid get farther and help the 76ers advance to the Eastern Conference Finals or beyond? Those are some question marks that we're going to have to see moving forward after the first round, but I have the 76ers moving on, gentlemen, sweeping the Nets. And the last but not least matchup in the first round, we'll see the fourth-seeded Cleveland Cavaliers taking on the fifth-seeded New York Knicks. I do believe that this is going to be the best playoff series in the first round. There's a lot of good, appetizing matchups in the first round, but this one between the Cavs and the Knicks is truly going to be special. With that being said, I have the Cleveland Cavaliers winning this series in Game 7. And there's, like I said, weeks ago, I said on the podcast that the Cleveland Cavaliers are one of the most dangerous teams in the playoffs. I think they can beat anybody in the Eastern Conference right now, other than Milwaukee and the Boston Celtics. However, I wouldn't be surprised if they match up against those two teams and go to Game 6 or Game 7. But I think they can knock off anybody in the Eastern Conference right now in a 7-game series, other than those two respective teams. With that being said, it's going to be it will be an iconic moment. Think about it. It doesn't get more iconic than this. If Donovan Mitchell, a player that wanted to go home and play in New York for the New York Knicks, a player that the New York Knicks passed up on because he was too much draft capital, too much to give up for Donovan Mitchell. Now, what if Donovan Mitchell sticks it to him and sends them home in the first round? Can you imagine the atmosphere? Can you imagine the performances that Donovan Mitchell has been dreaming of to play in Madison Square Garden in the playoffs? He's going to let the New York Knicks feel it in the playoffs in the first round. I won't be surprised if we see a lot of magical performances from Donovan Mitchell in the first round. The front court duo of Mobley and Jared Allen is going to be it's going to be great for them to go in the first round. They're going to be very helpful. Playing defensive basketball and getting a lot of defensive rebounds in the first round. I do believe that's going to be a huge reason why the Cavs win this series. And with that being said, those are my NBA predictions of the NBA first round. Let's see how everything plays out. I'm looking forward to it. I do believe this year's playoffs will be definitely more special. Definitely have more surprises than last year. I do believe the Western Conference is wide open. I do believe that we can see a lot of surprises play out in the Eastern Conference. But that is all the time I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. This is your host, Thomas Tyree, signing off. And I'll see you guys on next week's episode.